Hello and welcome to Future Medicine AI. My name is Harry. I'm the editor here, and today I'm here with Dimitry, who is going to be talking to us about MLOps and how it can be used to improve healthcare. So, Dimitry, would you like to give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. Actually, I'm really glad to tell more about the ML ops practice because it's also my personal pain points, I would say. During my experience, I have more than 10 years of the experience as a software engineer, and specifically for the digital healthcare products from the startup to the large scale organizations. And especially in the last couple years, around 3, 4 years, I implementing a lot of different ML ops practices. And why it's pain point for me, just because I've noticed a lot of organization don't pay attention much on it, unfortunately, and it's causing a lot of challenges. And I all the time encourage, it doesn't matter if you're early stage startup with the solo founder or you large scale organization, to start implementing these practices to make it mature, because it saves you time, budget, nerves, and also a lot of things regarding the data consistency and security part as well, compliances. So that is why, for me, this is a really crucial topic nowadays. And I'm also involved as a CTO in the early stage startup. So that is why we will talk in this presentation about how we can implement it not only for the large scale organizations, but from the very beginning. It doesn't matter in what stage currently you are. Okay, and let's talk about the agenda, what we are going to discuss. So first of all, we will talk a bit about ML Ops, what is it, why we need it, and then we will discuss more about ML workflow and how we can apply ML Ops principles and practices to the ML workflow. And at the end, as a bonus, I will show you some practical use cases which I use to solve some real cases, and yeah, we'll show it in the diagrams as well. So, so first of all, let's try to understand what is ML Ops, because it is important, since you need to somehow to understand, do you have it actually in your organization? Do you use it or not? What is it? And before that, we need to cover another terms. It's DevOps. And DevOps is combination of development and operationals to increase the efficiency, speed, and security of the software development and delivery. And why we are talking about DevOps here? Just because MLOps, it is application of DevOps principle and practices to the ML workflow. It's some kind of reincarnation, I would say, of the DevOps. So if you in your organization you already have some kind of processes of utilizing the DevOps practices, then for you would be easiest to also add some additional pipelines for the and implement the ML ops as well. Just to make it clear, you might also faced with this term like a model ops. It's actually much broader term, which is also includes ML ops, because ML ops is subset of model ops. Model ops it's cover all the decision models, but ML ops it's rather focusing on the AI models than, for example, model ops it just cover everything. So to not confuse you, today we will talk only about ML ops and how we can implement it in your organization. Also, another illustration which show actually where exactly ML ops sits. You can see here, it's just at the center of it, and you can see like it's also need to be in charge of several departments like machine learning engineers, data engineers, also DevOps, and it's just orchestrate all these different departments to make sure like all these pieces put together to make it happen? I mean, all this automation. Actually, one of the challenge why I'm really like encouraged to implement MLOps as early as possible is just this thing. So by the Tech Target report, 83% percentage of organization increase their budget for AI, which is obviously like nowadays everyone try to invest to the AI to survive and actually to be aligned with the market trends. But the interesting thing is like all this organization which is currently starting to use AI capabilities, their deployment time of their model increase from a month or even longer. So it's actually more than 64% of organization. Just imagine at scale, actually how it can be affected to the organization regarding the speed of the deployment process of the new model, also validating the new model, and then just think in case if you have more than one model, so it can save you a lot of time, nerves, as I mentioned at the very beginning, and budget as well, and also allocate a lot of time for the engineers to focus on some more productive work than doing this thing like maintaining the infrastructure only for the ML model. And why it happens actually? Because we are talking about, okay, so what is it? I mean, just to deploy ML model, it's sounds like it's simple task, but actually we have this hidden technical debt or this hidden part of the iceberg. So do you see in the center of these like blocks we have ML model? It's only a small part of it, and all the surrounding blocks, it is actually the processes, practices which you need to have in place in order to maintain ML model in a proper way. And we will talk later about why actually it happens and how we can automate most of these things. And this is exactly causing this delay. And especially if you're early stage startup and you're following this lean development process, this is highly important for you time to deploy the model as fast as possible, to validate it as fast as possible, and then adapt it to the market needs. But I guess it's also important for the large scale organization as well, because they can utilize these resources in other aspects of their business. So, okay, to sum up, what kind of problems MLOps solve? So first of all, it helps us to get model from an idea to production in the shortest possible time. This is one of the major advantages, but not only. So what we can do also, fast experimentation with the models, because we all the time can faced with the different changes of evolving of our business needs. Also data can change, and we need all the time to adapt our model to work with the new sources of data, also with the new business requirements, and we can also do this improve this process by the MLOps. Also, the important thing about the compliances, it takes some time to make sure like our software model is compliant and follow the certain list of regulations, depends on the region, of course. And here we can automate part of it, not fully automate, unfortunately, but I guess we will reach this point sooner or later. Quality assurance, this is another huge topic, and here we can simplify this process to test it much more faster and in easiest way. And of course, we need to monitor these models to understand, okay, when we need to retrain it, or to understand, ideally to do this automatically, and to manage it as well. The key takeaways so far is just MLOps. You need to know like it's just application of DevOps principle and practices to the ML workflow. MLOps help us save time to deploy. Also, it help will help us to maintain and be compliant with the certain regulations. And it doesn't matter if you early stage startup or large scale organization, you can implement it, and I recommend it to implement it as soon as possible. Now we will talk about classic ML workflow and how we can apply MLOps principle and practices to this workflow. So what we have here, we have a data, then we need somehow to clean up this data, then we do some kind of experimentation, build the model, then we validate, test this model, then deploy, and then monitor. And this is a continuous process. Means, like, again, when we will have new piece of data, we need to start this circle from the very beginning. Okay, so let's dive deeper into it and discuss in more details for each stages of it. So first of all, data preparation process. So what we need to do here in data preparation process, data need to be somehow to clean up, and we need to prepare the different version of the data sets. We need to normalize data. We need to anonymize this data without to get rid of any private information, for example, patient name, contact information, insurance number, etc. To work only with the pure clinical data, health-related data. So this step usually most time-consuming, unfortunately, and MLOps can help us to speed up this process and automate most of the things. In addition to this, using MLOps, we can also automate data normalization by casting it to the single format, and also utilize some data anonymization tool to make sure, like, again, we will work with the pure data. So here, regarding the MLOps implementation, what else we can do is control the different version of the data sets. This is highly important for the testing and building the model on the second stage. So that means we can actually test our model with the different data sets, and it will be structurized, and we won't have some chaotic results because in that case we can predict and look back about, okay, so what kind of data sets we used, which give us this result. The general rule for this stage is better quality of the data, better quality of the model, or another phrase of it, like a garbage in, garbage out. So that is mean like this is highly important here to prepare and process data and make it ideally 100% aligned with our business needs. And the next step after it will be the experimentation or building the model. So during the experimentation, first of all, we need to try to achieve our business goals, our business needs. And in that case, we need to track the metrics on each run. And we need to run this build until we will reach our business goals. That's mean, like, we need to look back and then tune slightly some parameters and rerun it again. Also, another thing is we need to run experimentation, as I mentioned, as many times as we need. And here MLOps can help us to do this. We can actually checkpoint this step, ideally to not run the previous stages and execute these stages until we will be happy with the result. Also, during the experimentation thing, we will most likely produce some amount of the code, which we also need to source control it. MLOps can help us also with it. And when we're happy with the result, how the model works, so we can proceed with the next step. It is a validation. So by validation, this is also a highly important thing, and especially for the digital healthcare products organization, they need to pay attention on this step. In addition to the previous step, when we do the data normalization, anonymize the data, it's part of the compliances as well. This step is also highly important to make sure, like, we still building the compliant a model which is also has following the regulation and has this ethical standards. We need to make sure like there is a human in the loop. So we actually need to validate this model, test it, and then deploy it on some kind of staging environment, do the QA process, check if we are following these certain regulations, and then configure the audit and trail log collection as well for the future validations. So this is all about this step, and after it, actually, we will be ready to deploy the model. So we already test the model. It works well. It's actually aligned with our business goals. It is 100% compliant. We use the pure data, without any personal information at all. So everything is perfect. And I would say like by the deployment, it can be the end of the process, but actually, as you can see, it's just the beginning of it, because after it, we need to monitor everything regarding our model. So, and this monitoring happens not only in the technical perspective, such as collecting the performance information, response latencies, etc., but also in a business perspective view as well. It might be the case when, for example, in our model, our business goals evolve, or new treatment protocols are introduced, or any kind of patient population demographic change, whatever. So, and we realize like, okay, so our model right now is not fully relevant to our business goals. So, and we called it like a model drift. So actually that's mean like we need to retrain the model based on these changes. And actually, we need ideally to monitor it and do this automatically. And this is the beauty of MLOps, when actually we can automate this process. And another case is when, for example, the external sources of data also has been updated, changed, the format also changed. We start using some new sensors, new laboratory equipments also is introduced, so which produce different sources, formats of the data. We still, again, would need to use this data, and we need somehow to adapt it to our pipelines. And we call it data drift, when we need also to normalize it, new sources of data, and then synchronize it with our pipelines. And this can be also automated, and we can check, first of all, we can collect the new amount of the data. We can also normalize it, and the same one we can easily adapt based on our business needs and retrain the model. So this is a really nice stage when you reach this stage, when you have this model retraining automatic process. It will help you to save a significant amount of time, and at the same time to keep your model all the time up to date and be relevant with your business needs. So getting back to the concept of ML ops, as I mentioned at the very beginning, you can implement it at any stages, and you don't need to implement it at once, because otherwise it can be quite risky for your business, and also it might be just chaotic. And also advantages of it is you can start from any stages. For example, you can decide it, okay, so let's automate the data normalization for now, and then set up some CI/CD pipelines for it. So it will be enough. And it is good starting point, actually. You can do this without any problem, and later you can add some kind of automation for validation, building the model, and monitoring without any problem. So, and here, based on this information which I provide to you, and this foundation of understanding how it works, why we need it, you can evolve your organization on what level you currently are, from level 0 to level 4. And in that case, you can understand how you mature with the MLOps processes. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you already have it in place, and actually, you're lucky. I mean, in that case, you don't need. You can focus only on the business needs, and then the beauty of MLOps will do the rest of the work. But if you don't have something or miss some pieces of this ML workflow automation, so highly recommend you to continue improve it. And this is a continuous process anyway. So key takeaways so far. MLOps can implement it at any stages of the ML workflow. Please pay attention on the data preparation, validation, and monitoring stages. This is crucial regarding the compliances and also regulatory check. Also, another thing is automating model retrain can prevent model and data drifts, as I mentioned. So it's really save your time and be all the time sure like your model up to date. And some bonuses from my side. So actually, I faced with a lot of challenges during this journey, and I understand sometimes it's maybe quite scary how actually I can get started and how can I understand. Okay, so what kind of services or tools do I need to use? For example, this is a service map which I use maybe and was introduced 4 years ago, maybe even more. Quite a lot of services, but at the same time, you can see how it looks now, or at least a year ago. And this is insane. I mean, amount of services significantly, we see significant growth of additional services. Most of them, they overlap with each other, they replace each other and so on. So it's really easy to get lost. And for me, it also was kind of, the challenge. Okay, so we have a lot of services, but the idea is why I provided to you this kind of foundation is just to understand fundamental thing, and using this fundamental thing, it doesn't matter for you what kind of services you're going to use. Actually, you can replace any services because the main thing is it is a concept. And so that is why my main goal for this session was to deliver for you this knowledge and understanding of this baseline, and then you don't need to worry about all these services. You can just pick some of them and test it. If you don't like, okay, no problem, you can replace it with any other. So my approach is to be also service provider agnostic. We don't need to stick with some providers. And we can easily replace it if we need it, if we're not satisfied with the quality or we're not satisfied with something. So it's absolutely fine. Okay, and yeah, few bonuses, some kind of pipelines for this from search to production, which I used before. So we have ML researcher who writes the model and deploy it to the GitLab repo. He's a researcher develop computer vision model. And in that case, our data will be images, actually DCOM files, whatever. And we store it to the cloud storage. In our case, it's S3 buckets. Again, don't pay attention on the, this is a AWS, but actually you can replace it with Azure or any other provider. So I'm just showing the example which was done. So we have here two repos in GitLab. So one of it is containers and another is for code. Also, we use CWAT for data labeling, and we use Amazon ECR for the managing containers. We use Amazon SageMaker in that case to train a model, and DVC to also control the version of the models as well. And for the monitoring process, I use here Fluent and Prometheus and Grafana. And so as a result, we have the quite basic pipeline. When we have a model, we label it, we keep it into some cloud storage, then we train the model based on these images. And then we have the separate pipeline for the QA environment, and we monitor it using these services. So that's it. So as you can see in this pipeline, we don't have any possibility to retrain the model. We just collect it based on the data which we provide. And also, as I mentioned, you don't need to worry about what kind of services do I need to use. Do I need to use SageMaker or any others? It doesn't matter. For example, this is another case where I just get rid of SageMaker on this stage and use another service. In that case, it's MLflow. And actually, I have the same result. Basically, it doesn't matter. For the CI/CD, I use the local runners from GitLab, but again, doesn't matter. You can use any other. And also for the monitoring, I replaced one service to the Evidently AI for the reason because again, by that time it was some business needs. I just want to show you the example how easy it is. Actually, you can replace one service to another service and get the advantages of it, and you don't need to rebuild entire infrastructure for it. So another solution is using the data versioning and retraining process. This is I really like this approach because actually we adding here in the application stage, we collecting the data from the customers, from the users, and then create a versioning of this data, and then train the model based on this data and create a different version of the models of it using MLflow. And this how actually this diagram represents this full circle of ML workflow, which we discussed before. So we have actually, we process data, we train the model, we test it, we have the pipelines for the QA, and then we collect some additional data from the users to make sure like it's still aligned with our business needs and we don't have this data drift. We don't have these changes, and if we have, then we can retain the model in case if we have a model drift as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't want to dive deeper into details about this, but you can download this presentation. You can contact me. Feel free to ask any questions. All the time happy to answer on it. Try to challenge me even. Yeah, I would be happier to do the brainstorm and help you to solve this. And all the time happy to provide some useful information. Yeah, I guess that's the end of my presentation for today.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that fantastic presentation, Dimitry. And I think it's very clear some of the advantages that you can get from using MLOps in healthcare workflows. And I guess one question that I would ask, maybe from the perspective of someone who's not familiar with using MLOps in their workflow, how would someone looking to use MLOps in their workflow go about starting to use it, for example, or at these different stages, maybe they're at one of the stages, how do they go about moving on to the next one, or even just starting at all?
Yeah. So you need, first of all, to evolve on actually evaluate yourself and evolve slowly. So for example, if you realize, okay, we don't have any pipelines, we don't have any DevOps practices, so what I'm going to do, if I were you in that case, I would first start with the DevOps, like a basic, set up some basic pipelines to deploy new builds and so on, and then adding these pipelines. And after it, you can automate at least the deployment process. If you take a look on the MLOps workflow, ML workflow, so we can see, again, if you don't have anything, I would start from the data part because this is the most time consuming, or I would start with the deployment because it's easy to set up. But again, if you don't have, it depends on in your stage. If you don't have even any models to deploy, then probably it's better to start with the data. It's again, by the time and effort gives the best outcome because data preparation, it's really time consuming, and to automate some of the things, simplify your work, and then after you can automate deployment process. When you have deployment process ready, then you can do, for example, the experimentation on validation and automate some things in these stages. Monitoring, it's also easy to set up, at least some basic one. You can even set up it with when you configure the deployment, you can set up monitoring at the same time, so it's quite easy. But the most challenging part, it is data preparation experimentation. Like it's okay, but validation part is also be sometimes quite tricky regarding the compliances. So to sum up, the easiest thing would be to get started its deployment monitoring process. Maybe to set up some additional environment like for QA. It's easy to do. It's part of the DevOps actually. The most time consuming and the things which give you the best outcome, it's if you automate the data processing and validation part as well. So you need to decide, depends on your resources, available time, which approach you would prefer. But again, you can start at any stages, so it doesn't matter.
And I don't think I've got any more questions. So thank you so much for the presentation. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to Dimitry, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, good. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to reach me out and challenge me with your questions or any kind of challenges which you reach. Yeah, happy to help.